Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, welcome everyone. This is an art class. I just call it Art Doodles, and today we're going to do some pumpkins and fall flowers. Some of these are more complex. We won't be doing all of them. We're going to be doing something very similar to the one on the bottom left. And if for any reason you get behind, don't worry, it is being recorded. So you will be able to catch up, and I will send out a link to the recording to everyone who registered. My name is Kathy Hart. Mary Ellen is my tech host, and we are both members of these two wonderful organizations that are hosting the session today, the Renaissance Society at CSUS, which is one of our local universities, and their mission is to learn, connect, and share. So they provide opportunities for participatory, lifelong learning and community engagement for adults. So you are attending one of our community events. We have literally hundreds of classes that are for our Renaissance members. And right now we're all virtual. Hopefully in the spring, we'll be able to do some back on campus, but right now we're all virtual. The second organization that is co-hosting is Friendship Force of Sacramento. We are part of a global organization, and our mission is to explore, understand, and serve. So we're dedicated to cross-cultural understanding, and our members travel and host others in the name of global friendship and peace. And both of the websites were listed there. Don't really know what that thing is. Oops. Okay. I don't know what I did. Let me stop share. Sorry about that. And I will try to do that again. For some reason, it is, okay, there we are. Let's just go right there. So this talks about our Eventbrite. Now it won't let me go to slideshow mode. Not really sure what happened. Sorry about that, but this is the website for where you can follow us for all of these free events that are open to the public. And all of our recorded events are on our YouTube channel. They include lots more than just art. We have lots of wonderful speakers. Mary Ellen brings quite a few speakers that are experts in different aspects of food. We have history experts, you know, you pretty much name it. There's lots of wonderful, wonderful free recordings on our YouTube channel. So for today, I'm just going to ask you to mute yourself because we are, it'll just be easier if there's not a lot of background noise. But if you do have a question, you can either unmute or you can put it in chat, and Mary Ellen will ask the question for you. We ask that everyone just be kind and respectful to all. We are volunteering for this event, and this is for fun. So just have a good time. This again is a list of the supplies. And let's get started. So I think what I'm going to do is, Mary Ellen, maybe you can do this. Under the participants, can you spotlight my name, and then that way it'll focus on me. If you need to look away because I'm moving my camera. This is so you can see what I'm doing. If you spotlight me, I think that makes it so folks can see it better. Okay, let's see if I can do it.
My apologies, I was muted. I am suggesting that everybody view this in speaker view, and that way you will see Kathy. If we're all muted, it won't be a problem.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I can't find the spotlight for some reason. Yeah, so if everybody mutes and I will be talking now, hopefully, I don't know if the light helps or makes it harder. Okay, so we're going to do something very similar to this one, okay? So what you want to do with your water is you want to actually activate your paint. So what I mean by that is you're just going to put a little bit of water on your different colors. And we're going to, here I just have a little palette here that I moved into my office. And I'm just going to add some water, and that activates or makes the paint so I can use it when I'm doing my watercolor painting. So I'm just kind of going around with my colors, adding a little water. I'm probably not going to use blue. I am going to use this orange. Okay, then you can set that aside for a minute because we're actually going to draw it out first. So I'm going to show you a simple way to draw. I'm going to use a Sharpie. You can use a couple of things. If you want, you can use just a simple pencil and just do it lightly. Or I've got some watercolor pencils. I don't know if you can see that. Well, you probably can't read it anyway, but these are pencils that when water is, put on top of them, it becomes the watercolor pigment. And so it basically kind of erases as you actually do the painting. So let's start. I'm doing the Sharpie so you can see it. We're going to start in the middle by I'm going to do a little bit of a squatty looking pumpkin. So you're going to kind of do an oval. Okay. And then we're just going to go off either side, almost like a C. A C, and then the mirror image of a C on the other side. Okay. And then you just make it as large as you'd like. I'm going to do one more that's kind of like the front. And then I'm going to start doing some of my back images. Okay, so for that, because I want the perspective that I'm looking down on it a little bit, I'm going to go up and down. Okay, then kind of a similar thing on the other side. That's probably should have been down a little bit more. And then I'm going to do some in the back. I'm going from the middle and around, a little bit curved because I'm making one of those curvy looking pumpkins. Mary Ellen, are you there? I see some weird stuff on mine.
Yes, I am. So we're just seeing you. What's the problem on your end?
Okay, I have like Renaissance Cafe is on my laptop, but that's all right. As long as you can see me, I'm just going to go ahead and do the class, but I can't see it. Huh, that is very strange.
It is perfectly set right now.
Okay, all right, that's just the main thing. Okay, so once you've drawn the pumpkin, we're going to do a stem. So we're going to go not from the very top, we're going to go from, maybe the top fifth, and we're going to bring the stem out. Again, no right or wrong way. I'm just kind of doing a little curvy stem. And I'm going to add a little leaf on there. So I'm going to bring a little stem down. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're just having fun. And then as a guide, I'm just going to make some kind of swirly lines because I'm going to put some foliage. That just gives me a little bit of a guide. Okay, so here's what it looks like as a painting. I'm sorry, I can't see what it looks like, so hopefully you can see that. And here was the drawing. So I'm going to put my drawing aside because I'm not going to actually paint something that has the Sharpie on it. And I've already drawn in light pencil. Now you can either use cardstock or watercolor paper. This is watercolor paper. I'll tell you, watercolor paper is better, but it is more expensive. It's about $1 a sheet. And when you're learning, you can absolutely practice with cardstock. It just won't do some of the blending as well. While I'm thinking of it, I wanted to show you, I found these watercolors and they're in the tubes, which I think is a better watercolor than say one of the palette kind. I mean, you can get this at most craft stores. This is a very inexpensive set, but I found these, there's only 5 tubes, but for people who are local, it was at the Dollar Tree. So I haven't tried them yet. I have no idea what the pigmentation's like, but for $1, you really can't go wrong for a basic, you know, primary color and black and white. So I wanted to share that in case anybody wanted to get some watercolors. Now what I'm going to do, my paints have been, you know, I've added water to it. What I'm going to do though, instead of having this really, really, really bright orange, which is the orange that's the one I have, I want to make it a little bit more of a real color, real pumpkin color. So I'm going to make it a little more earthy, I guess. I'm going to add
Kathy,
some, yeah.
somebody asked if you could move your paper up just about 3 inches up. They can't see the bottom of it, and I don't think it'll disturb you at all.
Okay, so this paper?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you, because I can't see, so I don't know. That's perfect to let me know that. So I'm just adding a little bit of, if you have brown, if you don't have brown, you want to make orange a little more earthy, just add some green. Opposite colors will work. I'm going to add some water to that. Okay, so now I've got an orange color I like. So I'm going to I'm loading up my brush and I'm going to just start in the center. Now, the one thing, is this okay, Mary Ellen, where I have it? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to start at the bottom and then start at the top and come down to the bottom and just simple painting strokes, right? This center is really simple. When we get to the next section, there's something I'm going to want you to do. So I'm just painting in that center oval, okay? Now for my next section, I'm going to go to the one on the left. I want to leave a very, very small bit of white between the two. Let me show you what it looks like. I'm just going to do that so I can clearly see the different sections of the pumpkin, but when you're actually painting it, you can go back in either with a darker color or leave it white or whatever you want to do. I'm just suggesting that in order to see the separate sections, we're not actually going to paint flush. Now, if a little bit goes on the section, that's okay. That's fine. We just don't want to. Otherwise, you have one big orange blob. I might not have watercolor paper. I think I have cardstock. That's all right.
Did you draw your pumpkin with pencil or marker?
This one, the one that I'm painting on was drawn in pencil. Marker was just so you could see it. And I'm going to thin up that line a little. I don't want a really thick white line. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my other side, the right side, and I'm going to do the same thing. And you're actually going to just do this all the way around. So you're going to go follow it down. If you touch it a little bit, that's okay, but just don't completely close the gap. You want a bit of a gap between your sections. And we're gonna, I actually have to add more orange because I don't quite have enough. And we'll continue around the pumpkin. Following those kind of C curves, leaving just a little bit of white. Okay, so that's where I am. I've done 4. Now I'm ready to start on some of my back sections. So I'm just following the drawing. Again, trying to leave just a hint of white in between. And if you've drawn in pencil, it's very likely that you might see some of the pencil, and that's fine. That's completely acceptable in watercolor painting. And you might notice I'm also turning my painting. I don't, I make it as comfortable for myself as possible. I don't worry if I have to turn the painting, that's fine. Because I want to, do what feels most natural and most comfortable for me to paint. As you get into the back, you might want to use a smaller paintbrush, but if you don't have a smaller paintbrush, that's fine. You can usually do it with I have kind of a regular size. It doesn't need, oh, this is a 7. I have a 7 round that I'm using. All depends on the size of pumpkin. Okay, I'm going to let folks catch up for a second. While you're catching up, I just want to show you what I was practicing the other day. And here's one that I made, and it's a card. So it's a very simple pumpkin on just some green, and then I splattered some orange, and I stamped happy birthday. So it's a very small little card. And then I did another one that's a thank you card. Thanks so much. So I actually really like to do small ones because then I can use them as cards. Okay, so we're going to go back to our pumpkin now. And let's kind of darken it a little bit on the bottom. You can see on this example, I put a little darker, kind of a brown color. You can even just do more orange. If you like, you can go and do the ridges with a darker color as well. So it might be a brown if you're using an orange. I'm just going to add a little bit of burnt sienna to my orange, and that just kind of darkens it for me a little. And I'm going to kind of put that along the bottom here, just kind of spotting it on, and then I'm going to go in and move it with my paintbrush before it dries. If you don't want this darker color at the bottom, don't do it. It's your painting. One other thing I like to tell folks who participate is that we are all artists. And what's interesting is that when we were younger, we all believed we were artists. And then somewhere in grammar school, we stopped believing it. I don't know if it might be because we get feedback from folks or if we just start comparing our work to others, but we stop believing that we're artists, and we really are. So I'm taking some of this darker color and just adding it kind of here and there. I'm actually going to put some up at the top as well, because that's where the stem's going to be. So I've added some darker color, and then I'm just going to kind of move it a bit. It's called blending out, so it doesn't have a hard line. Okay. All right, so everyone should have a napkin. So I want to show you something. If you've got either too much paint or if you want to do a highlight, because watercolor, it's you usually have to not paint where you want to highlight. But let me show you a little trick. Let's say I want to make a highlight kind of right here, right in front. All I did was put water, clean water on my brush. I'm kind of moving the paint around. I'm going to take my napkin and I'm just going to press down and I lift up. So that gives me a highlight. Now I don't really like it right there in the middle, so I'm going to actually put more paint on it, but I did want to show you that technique of how you can lighten something that you've already painted. Now, if you want it a little bit darker, feel free to add more color to make it a little more intense. I think that's what I'm going to do. Just really quick around my pumpkin. So this is same color I was originally using. I'm just putting a second coat on, which of course makes it more vibrant.
Are you using any water at all?
I am dipping my, well, this is about the consistency of my paint, so it's got water in it. And then occasionally, if I feel like it's a little too thick, I will dip it, which is just adding more water. And then I put that into my paint. So I guess the answer is yes, I am. The short answer. But I don't want it too wet. If you get too much water on your paintbrush, just tap it on your cloth. That'll take the water off. Okay, so my pumpkin is about done. Let me wait a second and have folks catch up in case you're not done. The next thing we're going to do is the stem and the leaf. And for this, just for me, I'm going to use a slightly smaller brush because I made my stem kind of thin. So I'm going to make sure my green that I'm going to use is nice and wet. I'm actually going to just blend a little green because I don't want it this bright green and I don't want it this blue green. But that's what's on my palette. Okay, that's kind of a, take some out. If you are using a plastic palette like this, you don't ever have to clean it. Like if you're mixing in the middle, just let it dry. I mean, if you have too much, of course you can clean it, but you can just let it dry and then go back to it at another time. And you can still use the color once you activate it with the water. So just leave it open to the air and it'll dry. And then you can use it again. Okay, so I'm ready to do the stem. And I'm going to start. I'm not going to have just a squatty little stem. I'm actually going to kind of poke it through a little bit because if you've seen pumpkin stems, that's actually how they are. They aren't just.
Kathy, we have a question.
Yes.
From Donna. What size brush for that thinner brush? Or what brush?
I am using a 5 round, but it's just, it's like, look at the size of your stem, you know, just a smaller one. I could still do it with this larger brush, but you have to work on the tip, just using the tip of your brush instead of more the side of the brush. But whatever you have, I mean, I'm all about not buying special things. It's whatever you have and you'll make it work. So I'm coming down with my stem and I'm going a little bit onto the orange, a little bit, because I don't want that really, you know, I don't want it just kind of stumpy, like I said. I want it kind of more organic. And then just follow around and make your stem, which gets thinner and thinner. Oops, that's a lot.
Would you move your paper up again towards
Yes,
your paint
thank you,
palette?
thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Sure. And my, the paint on my stem is a little bit, I have some lighter places and some darker places, but I'm okay with that because that'll just give slight variations in the color. Going back into the base and just making that a little larger. Now I know mine is pretty wet, so I'm going to leave that alone for a minute and let it just dry naturally. And I'm going to come down to the, do you remember I drew some of these just kind of curves? That's where we're going to do some smaller leaves, some viney looking leaves, kind of like this. Okay. So go ahead and get either the same green or a different green, whatever you'd like. I think I'm going to do maybe a slightly different green, but I don't really like that blue green. I want it a little more fall colors. There, that's a slightly different one. Oops. Okay, and I'm just going to follow those curves with the tip of my paintbrush because that will keep it fairly thin. And if you are at all worried about doing like a little more fine detail, you can always use a marker. I mean, these are called doodles, which means, you know, you can do any medium you want. Okay, and I did two kind of curves there. Just be looking at your pumpkin. If you feel like, oh, I'd like it a little darker at the bottom. I like that, the idea of how that looked. You know, just go back and add a little brown. And remember what we did is that's adding the color and then I blended it out. So I'm just have a clean paintbrush now, and I'm just going to get rid of those hard edges by pulling up the color. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that bigger leaf up at the top. So you want the green. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm going to use the green that I did the vine in, but I might add a little brown just to, because I actually grew pumpkins this year and they get kind of with a lot of yellow and brown in it. So the way I do a heart is, I mean, the way I do the leaf is I kind of start with a heart, a little bit like a heart. That doesn't really look like a heart to me. And fill it in. And then you can come back and kind of add a little jagged edge. That's a really simple way to do it. So that leaf is mostly green right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, I have some yellow here. I'm just going to put that right on top and let it kind of just move around because my leaf is still wet with the green. Then I'm going to rinse my brush off and change it and put just a little bit of the darker pumpkin color. Okay, I didn't get enough color. Just to make it look like it's kind of an older leaf. And I'm just going to let that kind of organically move. I'm not really going to worry about it. I may come back in and fool around with it, but I'm not. Right now, I'm just going to let it do its thing. Okay, let's do these really simple little leaves coming off the kind of the viney looking thing. So let me show you what I do with that. I'm going to just do it on some scratch paper. So I'm taking a green. Now I'm going to exaggerate it. My actual leaf won't be this big, but I want you to see it.
Please move it up so we can see the bottom. No,
Like this?
No, vertically.
Like this?
Yeah, but that's too far. Now put it down on the paper so we can see the bottom of the paper.
Okay, I'm not going to go on the whole paper. I'm just going to do a small part, like I'm doing it right here. Can you see this? So I kind of go up, kind of an oval, but a little bit of a tip. That's the kind of leaf we're going to be making. So you can curve up and down and just fill in. If you want to leave a tiny line of white space that gives the illusion of a vein, that's fine. But those are the leaves we're going to make. So coming back to our painting, you can start at either end, but you're just going to go, you're going to make those little leaves on either side of the line. You can see sometimes I'm leaving a space, sometimes I'm not. Okay, so this is what I'm doing. And we're going to do that along both lines. Just going all the way down. You know, I've decided after doing one side that this one that has, it's completely painted in, I'm going to try to lift some of the paint. So how I do that is I have a clean brush and I've dabbed it on my napkin so it's fairly dry. And I'm going to put it on there and you can see it lifted the paint. So that one's not as just all painted in, because the other ones I ended up not doing that. But there's no right or wrong way. It's just whatever you like. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly do the other side. Oh. I think I get too much paint on my brush initially. That's the problem. I hope everyone's gonna have fun fall plans, whether you do Thanksgiving in November or if you celebrate Halloween this month. I hope everyone has some fun activities planned. You're enjoying the beautiful change in scenery, because we have all of our trees are now just filled with beautiful color. Imagine in Massachusetts, it's the same. You might have already had your color. I don't really know, but ours is happening right now here in Northern California. So I finished my leaves along the squiggly lines at the bottom. I'm going to go back into my leaf off of the vine. And I'm just gonna kind of blend out a little bit of those hard lines. Right there, that's what I mean by a hard line. So I'm just gonna use the same paint that I was using, and I'm just kind of manipulating it a little so I don't have that really harsh line in my leaf. And one thing I want to show you, and I'm not sure I've done this with watercolors, I have done it with acrylics, but I want to try a technique with you to make some of these reddish berries that I think we'll put along this vine. So you want to make sure that your red has enough water. Mine does not, so I need to add some water to my red. Make sure that kind of juices up so the water gets some of the pigment. Okay, and I'm taking, you can do this with a paintbrush, but I'm going to try it with a Q-tip where I dip it in my paint. I get some paint on the edge of the Q-tip. Let's see how this works. I do it all the time with acrylics, but let's try it with watercolors. And then all I'm going to do is almost like stamp it. So it gives me a circle. Okay. You can do that with the paintbrush. It's just kind of a neat little technique if you want to try it with the Q-tip. I know I didn't put that in supplies, so you may want to do that as we finish. But I'm just going to take this Q-tip and I'm just going to add some berries here and there. Okay, I want to show you something that happened to me. It may happen to you. This one right here, it bled into my green leaves, and I'm not super crazy about how that looks. So I could either try to lift it, or I'm probably not going to worry about it. But sometimes that happens, and sometimes you like how that looks when it bleeds. I wasn't expecting it, and I actually should have been a little further away. Maybe if I do. Okay, so I'm just adding a few berries. I kind of try to group a few of them. I just think that looks a little better.
I'm using a number 2
Great.
brush.
And I say whatever is working is great. So that's what I ended up with along the bottom. Again, you can paint or you can use a Q-tip. Makes a nice round little dot pretty easily. Okay, another color, let's see, that might be nice if you'd like to do it is to put in some yellow. That's what I did here. You don't have to. You can just do curlicues if you're happy with it. the way it is, which I think I'm happy with it like this, you can just leave that. If you wanted to, you could do some background with either a very, very light brown, or you could also do a spatter. So let me show you how a spatter works. I'm going to do it on this paper. I think if I were to spatter this, like I did my, I did my cards. I'm going to use the orange color. I'm going to do it on this, just this drawing, but the idea is you get really, really, really watery paint, okay? So I'm really getting a lot of water in there. Doesn't always work for me. Sometimes I will use a toothbrush, but what you can do is you can just kind of tap your brush over where you want the spatter, and it, of course, then spatters off. So it would look something like this. Let me do it here kind of in the corner. So I've spattered several times, and that's what it looks like. So that's a background you might want to think about doing. I think I'll actually do that on this one, just because this was the one I mocked up for our class. That way you can see what it looks like with the paint. So I'm getting very, very thin paint on my brush, and I'm loading up my brush, and I'm going to try not to get it on my pumpkin, but it's okay if it does. So it's very, very loaded with paint, okay? And then I'm going to just tap it and splatter that paint on there, kind of in the white space, what's currently white. Okay, and so that's what it looks like, and that'll dry, and it'll just have a little bit more color rather than the one that I did earlier, where it just has a white background. Okay, and that pretty much takes us to the end. Does anybody have questions before we sign off?
I spattered my face too.
Sorry about that.
Oh no, that's just kidding, just kidding.
Can you just show your pumpkin that you just painted?
This is the one I
Please.
just painted.
Right, and the leaf, just looking at the leaf, and I guess you added some yellow in there and some
I did
orange or
some
something.
yellow and some of the darker pumpkin brown color, just to give it a little more texture.
Lovely, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone would like to share your art piece, just put it up to the camera and talk.
I don't mind giving everybody a little laugh.
Woo.
Oh, no, I wish I could see it, but I can't see anything. It's just
Susan,
all-
can you talk for a while? So as long as
Oh,
you're
okay.
talking-
Would mine go in the speaker place then? I don't, it's not doing it, but I made my stem too thick initially and there was no way to recover from it. So that would be one thing I would change, but it was so much fun painting it. Just loved it.
Good.
Loved it. Yeah.
And I have to say, there are no mistakes in art. It's just a little bit different than you thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
And each
It's-
one is
yeah.
kind of like our fingerprints, right? Something unique to us. So
Well, it's a learning.
embrace what
experience.
came out is what I'm saying.
You-
I
I learned
made
techniques today, you know.
Good.
I made mine with the I kept the dark lines. I like that, and so I
Yeah.
drew it with the dark, and then just kind of played with it. I'm still going to work with it. I just love these things. Kathy,
Very
thank
nice.
you, and Mary Ellen, thank you. This is
Yeah,
so
very
much
good.
fun.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm really glad you enjoy it. I know that last year when I was painting pumpkins, I did the dark lines in the grooves as well, but I thought, oh, I kind of like the white.
For a change. I want to say that the very first class I took of yours, Kathy, which was a doodle card class, and
If the rest of us could be quiet so we could hear Linda, thank you.
And I have, the cards that I made, I have given to people as gifts, you know, a card with a gift, and they have just loved it. I mean, and again, I don't feel like I have a lot of artistic abilities, but you just made it so simple and made it so fun. And thank you. I'm just so delighted. Every time you have a class, I have to sign up.
Oh, well, I'm so glad you enjoy it. And I'll tell you, I get the same response when people get
Yeah,
a
when you give them something handmade, that
card.
really is better than, no matter how many scrapbooking courses there are, or anything, you know. scrapbooking
So
is
Renee,
not-
we're going to ask you to, I'm going to mute you for a second.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks. But I get the same response. People are just thrilled to get a handcrafted card. And you know what? It's all art. So they just appreciate it so much. And I'm really, really glad that you're enjoying it. And I have another one next month we're going to do a fall leaf and have, you know, lots of wonderful color involved. And again, that would be super easy to make as a card. And then I have 3 planned for the beginning of next year in the spring semester.
All right, so Kathy, we have been asked, some people did not get the link with the original drawing. If you could either post that in the chat, I wasn't able to, even though I had a copy, or if you can send that when we send the link.
Okay, yes, I can try to do that. I don't know if Renaissance lets you do that. I'm not sure. So I'll try, but I can't say for sure whether or not it will happen. I know I posted it on the Eventbrite because I can do it on Eventbrite.
Right. So then maybe we can just again, will the Eventbrite link still work?
Yeah, the Eventbrite link works.
Right. And I posted, I'm going to put my email down again. If for some reason you don't get it, jot down my email and I will make sure that there's a mechanism for you to get what you need.
Thanks, Mary
Thank
Ellen.
you. Thank you.
All right, everybody, happy fall and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you. That was fun.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Was I the only man here?
Can I see your, okay.